Good Lord. It's already Wednesday, everybody. We call it hump day around here. Sad thing is all the people that would have called it hump day on radio, they've now been fired. They're done. They're sorry. What is the Jim McKay? They're all gone.
They're all gone. If I cared, I would get in the face of both Holland and Michael Harrison for what they've become. I would.
Yeah, but again, your level
for selling out, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Because it's over. It's like been over.
Fucking Harrison's biggest advertiser these days looks like it's the Epic Times, which is a fucking complete plot.
Right wing. Oh, they are.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Fucking God. Why don't you just call it QAnon?
It's like the John Birch Society called and said, "Damn."
Yeah.
Right. All right. I'm shared. I hope you're shared. Or you're at least moving in that direction.
No, I'm not doing anything so far.
Moving in that direction.
I'll get you. There we go. Oh, there it is. Hey, how about that?
That is wild.
Okay.
Ready when you are, my friend.
Okay. Okay. 'Tis the Brad and Britt cast for the middle of this week. We're glad you're with us here live in the 1:30 hour or so here in the East, later on for podcast fans everywhere. And our podcast listenership far eclipses our Facebook and YouTube viewership. Is that correct?
Yeah, the last quarter has been real good for us. So we really appreciate everything everybody's done and try to get the word out and share it with their friends and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Right. So that way, when I come in, having gotten a haircut after looking like Larry David and Larry from the Three Stooges, and then suddenly I don't. That doesn't mean anything to the podcast folks. They don't
exactly,
and they shouldn't care.
So speaking of the people of ignoring the podcast folks, can you hold up the present from your favorite daughter?
Here we go.
There it is.
My cup says impeached one-term president tears.
It's so great.
In giant letters, the word tears.
It's a nice mug.
Letters. Yeah,
it's a nice mug. It's his new profile picture on Facebook. For some of you who are not on his Facebook page, you should friend him, and it's up there. And I thought it was very cute. Another great present from Stephanie. She has a knack for that sort of thing, doesn't she?
Oh no, Stephanie. She's in Chicago. She sends me this kind of stuff all the time.
That's great.
The last cup she sent was "Don't talk to me till I've gotten my paycheck."
That's cute. Right. I got to start out with a recommendation. This one just came onto my radar and I was listening to it. I actually did something to prepare for the show today, which is so unusual for me. It's called the NSL podcast, which stands for National Security Law. It's this guy named Steve Vladeck and Bobby Chesney, and they are both with the University of Texas Law School. And it's a very timely podcast they've got out today because it just laughs in the face of this idiotic lawsuit that Texas filed against these other states, right? We talked about it briefly on yesterday's show. But
I disagree. I think that it makes a great point. And it is not Texas an independent republic?
It is. Texas is the independent republic, or at least they were, 150 years ago, or whatever the hell they were doing. Right. These are guys with actual law and legal training who were able to laugh it down And they talk about how states can sue other states. Sure, that can happen. It happens usually where borders. For example, when Colorado legalized weed, like Wyoming sued Colorado. But if you just on its merits, because it's too, and I'll give you on this one, because usually this is too stupid to discuss, but they're going to have to go through the motions on this. If they open the door to this sort of thing, if they open the door to the way that other states tally their votes, et cetera, then South Carolina could sue North Carolina because it doesn't like the way that North Carolina does gun sales. Or Tennessee could sue North Carolina because of that breakfast brunch bill that gets people drunk, and people were driving back to Tennessee and killing people because of the brunch bill and getting.
I'm a little bit surprised that you didn't think that South Carolina would have a case, and it would not be a frivolous lawsuit if they sued over the style of barbecue that is most popular in North Carolina, trying to impose it onto South Carolina, for instance.
So the boys do a good. It's NSL podcast. You can get it everywhere podcasts are served, and they go into some. They have a pretty good argument about that that went down in New York about the religious liberty thing, and they have some pretty good stuff about that. And then they lay the groundwork for next year, which is going to be mandatory vaccinations. Because in some cases, in certain parts of life, we mandate that someone should be vaccinated before they, for example, go to elementary school or middle school or high school, right, to a public school. Mm-hmm. So they're like, well, this could easily happen next year. It's very good. The NSL podcast, and check it out. It's really good. Well, but the lawsuit is. Can I
ask you a question about that? Yeah. If they've already covered this, and maybe you can give me what their answer is.
I'll see if I can remember. Sure.
I can see where there can be mandatory vaccinations for people in the healthcare industry and for people who are working in office situations where there can't be enough distance, where it's a clear and present health danger kind of situation. But to me, that's a lot different than saying everyone everywhere has to get vaccinated. Big gap there.
Exactly.
Okay. What do they say to that?
Well, they're just laying the groundwork for it, because they're just saying that it's going to be coming next year, and they're talking about people raising religious objections to vaccines, as they often do with stuff like that. So that's part of what the argument is, but they didn't get into it like really, really dig deep the way they did on this idiotic lawsuit.
We would hope, and this is stupid, we would hope that it wouldn't have to get that far. We would hope that some degree of collective responsibility would kick in for everyone, and that you are your brother's keeper, and love thy neighbor as I love thyself, and all those kinds of things that I thought were in the Bible. I'm not a big Bible guy, but I thought that kind of attitude, being if you were thirsty, I gave you a drink. If you were
hungry,
sick,
I give you food. Yeah, I give you shelter, all that stuff.
Right, and if there was an epidemic roaming through the countryside, I gave you a vaccine, and you said, "Fuck you." What?
Well,
what is that?
There are a number of people who were claiming for many years to be pro-life that don't seem to be pro-life right now. They're bitching about masks, and they're bitching about all this. We just had an order come down in North Carolina starting on Friday from 10 p.m. till 5 a.m. It's going to be essentially a curfew. It's not called that, but it's a stay-at-home order. They're going to stop all alcohol sales for on-site consumption at 9 o'clock. And they're simply, in a lot of areas, there's no room for patients at hospitals. And the epidemic is raging throughout North Carolina, as it is in most states.
I think like Guilford and Wake County, a couple of the largest counties, are 85% of their intensive care beds are already filled.
Right.
Now, considering that we've had exponential growth where there are twice as many right now as there were 3 or 4 weeks ago. Well, just run the numbers over the next 2 months, and you have 5 times as many people trying to get into the still 15% empty beds.
Right.
That the numbers don't work out. I do have a little bit of a conceptual problem.
What's that?
With the 10 p.m. curfew.
All right. Okay? What's your deal?
Well, you're going to have to tell the coronavirus that it needs to go to sleep 10 o'clock every night.
You're being ridiculous.
Well, hang on here. Okay. Let's close bars at 9 or 10 o'clock, because people don't ever get drunk any earlier in the day, and they don't get close to each other earlier in the day. If I've ever seen a situation where people will move their behavior to
4
go
o'clock in
out
the
to a
afternoon,
bar,
I'm gonna get
absolutely.
So your problem with Governor Cooper is he doesn't go far enough.
Right. I think it's, and that's because of the world in which we live in right now.
Right, because you know that he's being screamed at from the other end that this is way too draconian, and
absolutely.
he's getting that.
This is and well, what about Walmart? They're still open. What about Costco? They're still open. What about Home Depot? They're still. I mean, we know all those things,
right?
And you wouldn't need a curfew if people were just more conscientious all day long and would wear masks and would socially distance and wouldn't plan large family gatherings and wouldn't have Christmas parties.
That'd be nice.
And again, it all filters right back up to one guy in this country who has given tacit permission for everyone who's ever been queasy or wanted to stand up against the government setting any kind of limits or rules. I mean, are these not the I'm not going to wear my seatbelt people? Reconstituted? Are they?
Yeah, to the max.
Are these not the old? What do you mean I can't smoke on an airplane?
Yeah.
What about my rights? Yeah. Are these not the same? But now it's a much bigger pool. And it's much more important.
These were also the assholes that were trying to carry various things onto airplanes when stuff was banned as well. Remember they were trying to carry stuff on there.
Right. All the rules after 9/11.
Idiotic point of some sort. Yeah, I think there's something.
But I think just the 10 o'clock curfew is that going to prevent any kind of demonstrable crushing or bending of the curve in the? I don't think so.
But he's doing the best he can. He's trying to hurt.
I know he's doing the best he can, but here's the problem: when you set a rule or put limits on things that don't do anything, it just increases the cynicism.
Right.
It gives people who would tend to not want to listen to or obey or think about the good of other people besides themselves. It gives them more of a reason to say, well, that's bullshit. I'm not doing that. If I want to be out at 11:30, I'm gonna. You're just asking for it and wait for the first person to get a ticket or get arrested or who knows. Well, I just think that the 10 o'clock curfew, it doesn't mean a thing.
Well,
it just doesn't mean a thing.
It's largely symbolic. He has exempted grocery stores and like pharmacies and stuff because people.
By the way, grocery stores all close at about 7 or 8 o'clock right now. But okay, I give it to you.
The street for me is like open till 11. So you got that. You got that 1 hour. You got the magic hour that you could go out and shop if you really needed to. But yeah, the 24-hour Walmarts aren't a thing anymore. They stopped doing that a while back.
Right. So it's just not a good setup for what might have to happen 6 weeks from now if we get exponential growth. I
can tell you from some experience there really is no enforcement component for local police or local law enforcement.
I understand that. And people disobey the shit now. Wow, here's another rule I don't have to put up with. Because they're never going to do anything about it.
If you're in a city, and I'll just pull this out of my ass, that has a record number of homicides. Do you know any cities like that, Brad, for example? Yeah. So do you think the cops are going to be worried about like, oh, there's somebody at 10:01. Let me pull them over. Do you think that that's going to happen? Because I'm going to tell you that it's not. No. I'm sorry.
Well, it shouldn't be a priority.
Right.
Of course it shouldn't be. We don't want people.
And you can't. I mean, there's no criminal component to do this. They're not going to haul people in court for being on the road at 10:02. They simply can't do that. But it goes back to what you said. If anybody gave a shit about their fellow man or cared about them, then they wouldn't have to say, please don't try to kill each other. Please don't try to breathe on each other and kill. It's crazy.
We're operating in an idealistic world where the baseline is we all know that the virus can kill you and that it spreads very easily and that it is real. Okay, now I've lopped off about 35 to 40% of people because they don't all believe it's real.
Even people who are dying from the virus.
Right. People are dying from the virus to their last
To
breath.
believe that it's real.
Right. Although there was that one story with that one nurse. Apparently that was a bullshit story. That original story, the one in the hospital, that was a bullshit story.
There's several. There've been many others that have
but
also.
there are others. Okay. But we want to be careful because we don't want to be those kind of guys who grab a story that's already been debunked and keep repeating it.
I'm not basing it on just the one. There's been many different stories.
That started it. You have to admit that one started.
That did start it, but then other real ones came forward. They were like, "Oh yeah, this really did happen over here." So yeah, that is what's going on in North Carolina. Meanwhile, one of the greatest jurists in the history of courts, Ted Cruz, has offered his own legal assistance. He says, if this idiotic Texas case makes it to the Supreme Court and they decide to hear it, he will argue it before the highest court in the land, Brad.
Right. And by the way, if the Dodgers have 2 outs in the 9th inning and they have run through all their relievers, they can call me and I'll come in and I'll get that last out. That's about as genuine and sincere an offer as Ted Cruz is making. Nothing like making an offer that you're never going to have to make good on. Isn't that beautiful? Again, it just adds to the legend of everybody hates Ted Cruz.
You're going to bring me back to wrestling because there was this wrestling angle where the guy would go to the ring and he would call out like, "Hey, if Ric Flair doesn't come down here, I will challenge you to a match right now." And then they would ring the bell. They would count Ric Flair out because he wasn't anywhere near the building. And the guy would go, "I'm undefeated. I just beat Ric Flair." So and he did that like 100 times in a row. He'd call out like it's Lou Thez. It's Bruno Sammartino. I just beat him. He didn't come to the ring. So that's what Ted Cruz apparently is doing. A little side note on that podcast I was telling you about earlier, the NSL, they posited the question: has there been a publicly elected official, a Republican, who has tarnished their own reputation with their association to Donald Trump more than Lindsey Graham? I'll wait for your reaction to that. Has there been one that has done more to kill their reputation than Lindsey Graham? Now, I know you're going to say he was pretty bad before, and you wouldn't be wrong.
Well, I mean, you could name a lot of them. Mitch McConnell, who again was starting from even a lower level than Lindsey Graham, right. He's worse than he's ever been before. I mean, there's a lot of them. Even though Rudolph Giuliani is not a currently elected official, right. I would posit to you we're seeing the real Rudolph Giuliani. All right, so Lindsey Graham is the big deal, but what I want to mention, I was just doing a little homework here before we started, and you know who is weaseling his way through this and trying to be the one guy who is the voice of reason in the Republican Party? It's Mitt Romney, right? Okay. And he's getting credit, right? He's right. And if you listen to what he says, he's in his own way as bad as the rest of them because he always throws in the weasel language of, well, the president should stop these frivolous laws, but when it's appropriate, blah, blah. No, it hasn't been appropriate. It's not appropriate now. It's part of what the Supreme Court said on Tuesday when they threw out the Pennsylvania case was, hey, too late. It's too damn late, right? It's too late. And there is nothing that Donald Trump and whatever group. By the way, one of the hallmarks of the difference between this and the year 2000, Bush versus Gore, is back then you had the best lawyers in the business lining up to be on both sides of that case.
You did.
Right now, you have the third grade flunkies who couldn't get arrested. Arguing these cases because no good lawyer wants to touch them because they know better. And that's kind of the beginning and the end of it. But there is nothing appropriate, nothing that's legal or appropriate that you can defend President Trump on. And if you throw that in every time you say, well, Joe Biden is the president-elect, we know that, right? But Donald Trump there's no but. There's no but.
He has every right to pursue.
He's doing everything he can to destroy the American political system, democracy as we have known it, confidence in election results as we have generally accepted them throughout the years. Let's put it this way. Here we are, 5 weeks before Joe Biden becomes president. And what was one of the most dreary, repetitive things that Trump said throughout his presidency, that every time he said it, you went, oh, fuck you, you're so wrong. I inherited a mess, a disaster. And and of course, the answer is no, you didn't. You inherited a good economy that was slow growing, could have grown, but still growing. Jobs had been added for, 84 months in a row up until then, and it just continued on, right?
That's exactly right.
And always, the country was in pretty good shape when Obama left. He did not leave the desk a mess, so to speak. Right? So what do we have now? We have a president who is actively trying to sabotage everything, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's the Defense Department, everything he can. And he is trying actively to sabotage the response of this country to the coronavirus. He is absolutely doing it. That shit show on Tuesday, the Celebrate Donald Trump, he made America better and solved the whole coronavirus problem because he said it in his just disgustingly stiff, talk about inappropriate way, 5 ways from January. Nobody thought it wasn't possible. They all said we could never get a vaccine, blah, 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 blah. And I did it. I did it myself. I mixed the chemicals.
Yeah.
I did it myself. I did it myself. And I'm not getting enough credit. And God damn it, if one person is saved from dying during Joe Biden's presidency, I should get credit for it. just one. I mean, that's what that was. It was a total bitch fest, wine fest. And there is a picture. There's a still picture from Tuesday. It's Trump sitting. I don't know whether this was in the Oval Office or not. I think it was. He's sitting there, and there are about 20 people in a semicircle behind him. These are all his usual suspect, his whatever passes as a friend of Trump still, Alex Azar, and the Trump bunch, Ivanka. Every one of those persons is wearing a mask. There's only one person in that picture who's not, and you know who it is. So to this very minute, he is undermining the attempts to, and I guess it's probably too late with getting people to be diligent about mask wearing and socially distancing themselves. And here we are, 2 weeks before Christmas. And well, God damn it, it's a family tradition. I ain't going to give that up. And if God sees fit to take me, then that's where we are. And you know why we're there? Because Donald Trump said it's okay. Because the war on Christmas right now apparently runs right through trying to get people from killing themselves and killing other people by contracting the coronavirus. That's a war on Christmas, is it not?
It is.
It's the same thing. So who's for Christmas? Donald Trump. Who's against Christmas? The Democrats, the liberals, the effete Eastern liberal snobs, the scientists, and if it has to be pointed out, it's pathetic, but I'll point it out, and it is pathetic. One day, it'll all be said by people who were there that no, Donald Trump didn't slay the coronavirus. It was science. It was medicine. It was research. It was all the things that Donald Trump and the false promise of I'm going to liberate you from all those highly educated, quote unquote, experts and we're just going to do things from our gut because we feel like doing it. Okay. Science, modern science has solved this problem, or is on the verge of doing so within 6 months to a year. And that is it. It wasn't God. It wasn't Donald Trump. It wasn't Jesus. It wasn't any of that shit. It was, in a sense, it's the culmination of all of the advances that you can think of in modern medicine and science going back hundreds of years, being put right to work, concentrating in a way that we've never had. When they built the nuclear bomb, they didn't tell 20 private companies, first one to come up with it, to drop the bomb. No, that was a gigantic government program.
Manhattan Project, yeah.
Right. We didn't do it this time because clearly the expertise in that area was not only contained at the National Institutes of Health or the CDC or the other kind of research arms of the federal government. A lot of it's there, but much of it is out there in private industry and in the hated drug companies. I think a gigantic apology should go to Big Pharma right now. You can't, on the one hand, be pissed at them because they make a few bucks off of a drug that helps save your life, and then give them credit for developing the vaccine that saved the world. Which is it?
Few bucks?
Can it be a little bit of both?
Is it a few bucks? Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, and is it? I think it's a little more than a few bucks.
What I'm saying is, it's just not right at this moment. There's a time and a place for it. This is not the time.
Is it appropriate for me to point out that the people who have screamed about socialized medicine, it now seems that the socialized medicine countries are ahead of us on this, like the UK and Canada, which is not really socialized medicine, but for these purposes, people on the right have screamed about this, and they seem to be beating us to the punch right now, Brad?
I don't think that you can divide it up that way. I don't think you can. It's not.
And yet scoreboard.
Because Britain was not doing very well. Okay.
They got the vaccine into old people a lot quicker than we did, apparently.
Well, not really. What, a week ahead of time? And maybe, not that much.
Maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month. They still did it better than us. And supposedly their socialized medicine structure allows for people to die, and they supposedly hate old people. I mean, that's what I've been told for many years.
Well, all right. But the rest of Europe has not been doing all that well. But in the last few weeks, they did institute much tougher measures, and they have bent their curve back down in the correct direction. We can't do that because we have had no leadership all this time.
Are they smarter than we are? Are those countries?
It's not smarter. It's
I think it has to be on the table. I think there has to be something there. There's some sort of either the political leadership. Obviously, they don't give.
They don't have Donald Trump as their president. None of those countries. How about that? I'll give you that.
I would say that, in the UK, they would say that Boris Johnson is no prize. Obviously, he's a damn sight better than, Donald Trump, but that's a very low bar to set. I just think as of right now, he's hated
over there. He didn't win a big he didn't win a big election victory. Remember, he got that parliamentary bullshit back door nod to become the prime minister, but that's hardly a resounding election victory.
But the scoreboard right now shows that socialized medicine saved Donald Trump's life, Walter Reed Hospital, and socialized medicine got the vaccine into people quicker than whatever we're doing for profit. That's the scoreboard right now, as far as I can see it. I mean, I don't know if it's a victory lap or not, but it's something to discuss, I think, for people who've been so against quote unquote socialized medicine for all these years. Socialized medicine saved the president's life. I don't know if that's one in their favor or not, but that's what Walter Reed is, right?
Too bad, huh?
Yeah. Oh, now I'm turning against socialized medicine now. This idiotic lawsuit.
Here's a great question. This would be a trick question for Trump. Have you ever been ill and had to be treated by doctors who are part of a socialized medicine setup? And he would say, "Of course not. Of course not." Right? And of course, the VA and Walter Reed. I mean, that is socialized medicine.
He's the president. He can literally go, if he said, "Fly me to the Mayo Clinic," right? If he said, "Get Air Force One fueled up right now, and you take me to the damn Mayo Clinic,"
Well, but that's not socialized medicine.
I know.
But the VA,
right.
Walter Reed is.
That's the point.
It's the
That's
Army.
The point. He goes,
right?
I don't want. He could say, I don't want socialized medicine. I want private medicine. I want the Mayo Clinic. You fly me there right now. He didn't do that, as it turns out, because he had a better alternative, and it was right down the street, and his driver just took it to him, and then they paraded him around in front of the idiots who were celebrating. Which now seems even dumber by comparison. This is how dumb this lawsuit that Texas filed is. These idiots in Georgia, Loeffler and Perdue, they both were cheering Texas on.
Yeah.
The lawsuit kicks Georgia's ass. Whatever happened to states' rights, Brad? Whatever happened to states doing things the way they want to do them?
Well, but that just illustrates the corner that they're painted into. All right, so what are the tenets of this now? If you're these two Republican incumbent senators in Georgia. All right. Number one, the presidential election has not been decided yet. And I'm certainly not going to use the phrase President-elect Joe Biden. Right.
Right.
Number two, therefore, I must say that the system in Georgia where the votes were counted was not on the level. And the votes need to be counted again. And signature, the new obsession is signature match, right?
Yeah,
they like to use that one all the time.
They do.
Okay, that's the new thing. At the same time, they're running for re-election, so they want you to vote, but they want you to vote in a state where you are just positive that the votes don't get counted correctly, even if the people in charge of counting the votes and the governor are of your party. Okay? And now Texas, which has no business sticking its nose in any other state's voter counting mechanisms, zero, files a lawsuit that Trump thinks is the big one. He used those words, the big one. Okay. I'll show you the big one right here. We're going to go to Jeffrey Toobinville in about 5 minutes. So, no. So Texas throws out this complete bullshit that's going nowhere. We're not going to discuss, quote unquote, any merits of it. There are no merits to discuss. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, I took a little calamine lotion, castor oil last night, turned over to Fox for a few minutes. Their 11 o'clock show, that Shannon Breen, who gets her ass kicked by Brian Williams at 11 o'clock every night.
That's so funny.
But if you'd like to kick some ass, that's not a bad. Okay,
that's an ass to kick.
Anyway, they have glammed her up now. She looks like a $3 hoe now.
Well, she does.
Nice. They have foxified her up. So, but anyway,
she's not a stripper, but she's like the waitress. I think
they're making her look that way.
Yeah, but that's what it is.
But point is that the way they are coloring stories like this one, the lawsuit against the other states, including Georgia by Texas, or more importantly, the one sentence dismissal by the Supreme Court yesterday of the bullshit in Pennsylvania, which, by the way, is the biggest fuck you that you can get from a court. A one-line typewritten, get out of my face. Good day, sir. You've got nothing, right? That's what they said.
I said good day.
Good day. And it was a 9-0. It was a 9-0. That's what I said this a few weeks ago. I said they're never going to do it, and I'll bet you that it's 9-0. So I was right. So I ate a cookie about an hour ago to celebrate that.
You have a snickerdoodle? I'm on a snickerdoodle binge right now.
It didn't take, but what they do is they downplay the decision itself.
Okay.
They downplay the decision itself and couch it in, now, what does the president need to do now? Blah, and they will divert you.
He needs to shut the fuck up.
They will get you away from the fact that the Supreme Court shut the door. The Supreme Court said no more, but on Fox, that kind of just happened today. Now, what will the president and his lawyers come up with now to help alleviate this problem? That's how they do it. That's how they do it all day long. And these are the quote journalists at Fox who are doing it this way. They're all scared. They're all just dying.
They don't know what to do, and he's kicking their ass 24/7. It's like at the end of the game on Sunday, they go, well, now what can the Jets do now? They've lost the game, and there's zeros on the clock. What do the Jets do? What's their new avenue to victory here, Brad?
Yeah.
So it's hilarious.
While we're on the subject there, this got biased last week. We should note it that we had a federal judge panel in North Carolina last week reinstate voter ID.
Okay.
The voter ID that you didn't have to show when you voted this time around, because we know what bullshit it was. We know that it was all about trying to suppress the vote. We all know that the historic nature of voter suppression in the South and in North Carolina continues on. And they always talk about, well, we're just trying to ensure the integrity of the vote. And that is the all-time euphemism for I'm going to take it out of your mouth now, and it won't hurt. Okay.
I don't know if that's.
They're always lying when they do this.
Every time.
But it's not over. It's not over.
No, it's going to be that one actually will be appealed, and it does have some standing, and it will be heard in front of a court. That one's real.
But this is the most pernicious part of their ruling was they said, well, just because things happened in the past, just because the same legislators, the same people who came up with all of the, close the precincts, shrink the number of voting machines, mess around with the days you can early vote, all these kind of voter suppression tactics. Just because those people did that, and those same people then thought, all right, well, we'll come up with the constitutional amendment and we'll lie about the intent, and we will use language that's so fuzzy the average moron can't read it, because half the people go into the voting booth having no idea what they're voting on, and they go, well, I need an ID to vote. True. Well, I need an ID to get into a bar, the ones that close at 10.
You bring a great point, especially the referendums in North Carolina on the ballot. They're the most disingenuous things. They're absolutely, they are worded in a way that the average person cannot understand. But I agree with that.
It's just part of this long story of, and we've got many Republicans who have been recorded over the years admitting more people vote helps the Democrats, fewer people vote helps the Republicans.
That's right.
It's not every time that's true, but most of the time it is. In fact, it's funny what happened in the presidential election. Way more people voted than ever before. So what happened? Joe Biden won. Won. And he won in states that Trump just squeaked by, and a much bigger turnout turned into victories in those states, in the upper Midwest and in Georgia and in Arizona. And that was the whole ball game right there.
That was it. There needs to be, it has to be said right now, because they're trying to work right now on a stimulus package, which has been something that the Republicans have. I believe that the Republicans sometime in the summer went, it's not going to help us, so we don't give a shit about the American people. We're not going to get money out to them. Now there is some negotiation going on. If the Democrats are able to bring home those 2 Senate seats in Georgia, if Ossoff and Warnock are able to win, they get to 50, Kamala Harris can break the tie. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a stimulus package. There's going to be one anyway. Well, there should be direct payments to people. So the Mitch McConnell calculus is he's got to get something out there, because he knows they don't want Joe Biden to get credit for anything, right? Isn't that the deal right now?
That's part of it, but they're not going to get. Believe me, if at 4:00 this afternoon, mm-hmm. they walked out and said, peace is at hand, we've got a deal.
Peace in our time.
If you think that there would be celebrations across the country and the Republicans said, well, we'll never lose another election now, look what we just did. No, it's not that way, because this is the ultimate legislative example of, if I have to force the apology out of you, it doesn't count.
Right.
If it takes you 6 months to do what you should have done back over the summer, it doesn't quite count. This doesn't even get you back to even. This is just to keep people from getting thrown out of apartments by the millions on December 31st.
Mhm.
This is just to keep some of the restaurants and small businesses that are hanging by their fingernails from going under. This is just to keep, and by the way, we could mention this tomorrow at the front of the Brad and Britt cast. And maybe someone said this. These are my thoughts. If someone else has said it, they think like me. They're geniuses like I am. What I would be saying, because of one of the most important issues that's being discussed in this rescue package, this $1 trillion or so, just under $1 trillion that they want to put into the economy to try to keep things going.
Mhm.
One of the most important part is the keeping states and cities going,
Mhm.
keeping it going, and keeping them going. And what I would say is, again, these are essential services. These are essential services, police, fire. I would say Mitch McConnell is defunding the police.
Oh, nice.
Mitch McConnell.
Yes,
The Republicans are defunding your police.
I'll go with that.
Don't tell me about some guy who once said somewhere at some time, it was picked up by some reporter at Fox News where he said defund the police, it became the most potent political weapon since calling someone a liberal, and it worked. So defund the police, right? But defunding the police means taking money away from them. So far, very few examples of that can be shown. Very few, if any. But
I said this when they found out what a tax cheat that Donald Trump was. I said Donald Trump is defunding the police by not paying his taxes.
Well, that's too much of a three-step jump. This is more direct. This is every city in the country. This isn't just New York and Detroit and Seattle. It's not just those cities. It's every city in the country. It's cities in Texas. It's
Georgia.
cities everywhere. Georgia,
Alabama,
and Republicans are defunding the police.
That's what they're doing.
And if McConnell is going to go to the wall and say, well, we don't want to have a blue state bailout. It's a blue state bailout.
Fuck you. As always, the blue states are the ones
I've really been mean today with my nasty anti-Southern bullshit.
No, but they've always shown that the blue states are the ones that are the contributors. They get less back from the federal government.
Doesn't matter. Facts. So forget facts. You're talking facts. It doesn't matter.
And here's the other thing.
It doesn't matter if you've had a fucking president for 4 years attacking California and New York and saying that they steal all your money, you hardworking white shit out in the middle of the country, and they distribute it to illegal immigrants to pay for their health care. And he lies, and he says it over again. We're in the midst of a Hitlerian big lie campaign, and it's winding up right now when he tries to overturn the election. And so far, thank God, it's failing. So far, the institutions are rickety, but they are holding.
Well, what's blown my mind about this whole stimulus package is the Wall Street crowd is screaming at the Republicans, and they have been for a long time to get this done. The Wall Street folks are saying, why hasn't this already happened? You know,
the reason is because until there was clarity on the election, okay, and that it was very probable that Donald Trump might lose, the Republicans, inch by inch, day by day, suddenly revert back into what they were. It's like the Incredible Hulk. They turn back into deficits are bad. We can't spend more money than we bring in. Now, then you bring up, what about the $2 trillion tax cut right at the beginning of Trump's term? Exactly. He didn't pay for that. And of course, that doesn't matter. Facts don't matter. Remember, with a Republican Congress, with a Republican Senate, when there's a Republican president, spend all you want.
Yeah.
Send somebody the bill 50 years from now. If a Democratic president is in there and it's a Republican Senate and Mitch McConnell's in it,
they're stealing from your grandkids. They're stealing money from your
right, and that's just the way it is, and that's why so much is riding on what happens in Georgia. So much is riding on what happens in Georgia, because I can guarantee you, brother, that if the Democrats got 50+1, they would be 50+1 on spending to rescue the country. All right,
they will. And direct stimulus payments down. They will for sure.
And by the way, if they were 50+1, I guarantee you that a lot of Republicans would join them.
Oh, they would.
They're not all that way. Because remember, they're all lying, and they all hate Trump, and they mostly hate McConnell. They all hate each other. So
that's true. You've seen this. I did want to mention this Mark Elias guy. You've seen him as a Democratic lawyer, and I have to give credit again where credit's due. We started before we started recording about Mike Krzyzewski, of course, the Hall of Fame Duke basketball coach, who has now said, guys, I don't know if it's such a great idea that we should be playing basketball right now. So I have to give credit. Mike Krzyzewski actually doing the right thing. This Mark Elias guy, the Democratic strategist, and he's kind of tallying up the losses for the Trump legal team. I believe we're at 1-50. I believe that was their record going into today. It may be 1-51. They've lost at least 50. Mark Elias did get his law degree, Brad, from Duke University. And this is the guy. This is also the guy. That
doesn't balance off Stephen Miller.
Well, I agree.
or John Hammer.
Touche.
Right. Oh, and by the way, congratulations to Coach Jim Harbaugh. You finally figured out how to not end your season by losing to Ohio State.
There comes the hatred, and I welcome it. Yeah. Good day. I said good day.